announcement has been paid for by the Celtic World Order.
Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Indeed, welcome back to Celtic World Order, because it has been a while. We've also been having a pre-season. We've been having a summer break, haven't we, Paddy? We've been getting a wee bit of chill time. Well, there's not been much happening, but the team are back. They've been back in pre-season for a week, so it's time for us to come back. So, welcome back to everybody. If you're watching live or if you're watching retrospectively, I am always Steve O'Matt, joined by my bearded brethren to the side of me, the mainstay. It's Paddy Boy. Mate, it has been a while. It's been an unreasonably long period of time, but it's good to be here. And how you doing, mate?
Good, mate. I was out in Portugal for a bit there with the family, doing a bit of canvassing. So to all of the people that I spoke to that are joining the podcast and watching for the first time, welcome. It was lovely to talk to you all, a lot of the Irish contingent over there. So that was really nice. Spent a few nights in Jinky's Bar as well, which if you haven't been to the Algarve and you're planning on going, please visit. The place is absolutely carnage.
I believe you went to somewhere quite significant as well, did you not, whilst on that?
Well, I was going to, but my son took not well. Actually had an anaphylactic shock, so that was cancelled. However, I have cleared it with the wife, and it means that we're just going to have to take another city break and head out to that wonderful city of Lisbon before they take down the stadium and renovate it.
Well, you did enjoy yourself, and a well-deserved break, I'll say. So anyway, as it says, welcome back to not just Paddy, but every single person out there who is watching. As we say, we're taking a wee bit of a rest, but we'll start to drip feed things out as more starts to happen. And there has been a wee bit of ground. You may have seen about it elsewhere, you may have talked about it, but we are going to address it because, Paddy, we have not had a chance to go through some of the movement, if you want to call it that. There hasn't been a lot, but we're now a week in. We've got a game against Ayr United tomorrow, and hopefully, as we've seen, if you've seen the thumbnail, Idah, the bid, we've made that approach, and it looks like maybe we're going to start doing some business finally in time for the new season kicking off. But before we do that, there is always the wee bit of housekeeping. As we say all the time, welcome to you. If you are a subscriber and you follow us, then welcome back. If you are new, then there's only one way to help us out and to make sure that you don't miss any content. If you like what you see, you like what you hear, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. That way, every time we go live, anytime we do an upload, you will get notified and you won't miss a beat. You can also give it a wee thumbs up. And if you want to go one bit extra, you can share the content. It just gets more eyes in the door. It helps the algorithm. It helps grow this community, which has been growing steadily over the past few months. And thanks to everybody who's done that. Also, as we said before, completely optional. Now that we've got a wee bit of a community going, we are also eligible. You can donate to the channel if you want by way of membership. It is completely optional. You have no obligation to do that. Everything that we do here is 100% free. It gets no extra content. It's just a wee way to help support the channel if you do it. And a big shout out to our inaugural, the very first, the one and only at this moment in time, Mr. 420 somewhere has hit that membership. So cheers, mate. We appreciate that. It's not. We're not going to make fortunes. That's not what CW is about. It's about putting out content. It's about talking about the club that we all love. But if you want to help us out, then you can knock yourself out. We will not be fussed one way or another. So, Paddy, there's a few things that we've got to discuss, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because it's not been a lot. It's been a wee bit. Just to generalise, we'll keep it at a nice slow pace. Are you surprised that we find ourselves 1 week into the pre-season, the team are back training? Not everybody's back, of course, and there's no movement. Peripheral players on the way out, but nobody in the door. Are you surprised, or is it just par for the course for a summer as a Celtic fan?
Surprised and not surprised, to say the least. You expect it as a Celtic fan. I was listening to the phone in as well, there's a few guys on there giving it, oh, this is just the way we do it. It's the same old story. It's this, it's that. And yeah, do you know what? We should have got our business done early. I would like it to have seen it done early. Seen some statements coming out saying that folk might still be playing in the Euros. Do you know what? I hope so. Because if that's the calibre of player that we're going for, then I'd be absolutely delighted if we're going to sign anybody for the teams that are left in the Euros.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite slow. Few outgoings that guys that we expected, guys that we called. But however, I have seen pictures there of training, and you've got guys like Mikey Johnson who's returned and he's running up in Lennoxtown there training with some of the expected possibly not to be there. So yeah, it's slow, but hopefully there's a lot of work going on in the background.
Yeah, well, as we say, what has happened. Let's recap for ourselves. Let's recap. So, as we know, it's mostly been sort of peripheral guys, isn't it? That we've been kind of maybe there's been this idea where again that's just the way that fans, ever optimistic fans try to spin it, or some other, sort of fan-based media want to spin it that they're just clearing the decks. They're just clearing the decks before they get anybody in. And we've said time and time again on here that we have to do that. Yes, we should be spending. We've got the money to do it, but it's also as important to get rid of some of the deadwood before or even at the same time. I don't prescribe to this notion that that's exactly what we're doing. I think, to be honest, we've just been ever inactive as we have been for year upon year, season upon season at Celtic. But we're trying to get rid of folk. I don't believe that we're going to try and get rid of X amount of players before we get in. That's just a false economy. It's completely nonsense. But we have seen, we say, one person 100% out the door is Said Haksabanovic. He's made himself over to Malmo, 4-year deal. We cleaned our nose on that. We get £1.8 million back on it. So we didn't lose anything on him. And we got a guy who, let's face it, he wasn't fancied. He went out and wanted Stoke. It didn't quite happen. And quite surprisingly, he found his way over to Malmo. So he can add that on. He's ever-growing list of employers that he's had. He's a bit of a nomad. I guess that maybe suggests and gives you an indication of the kind of player, maybe the kind of character he is. Were you quite surprised, though, when he left, he was quoted, he made those comments where, in enough words to paraphrase, he had said that other people around the club were more keen for him to stay, but the manager had essentially made his decision on it. And, I what does that mean? Is that something should we be thinking, right? Oh, people want him around the club. Is that us being, people want to point to the likes of Peter Wall, for example? But if the manager's told him, you're not my plans up the road, that's the way it should be, isn't it? You can't go out and say that and make it out as if it's a problem.
The manager picks his side. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the chefs like you or you can hand in hand with the cleaners and talking to everybody every day and everybody loves you. The manager doesn't like you, pal. You're not going to play. It's as simple as that. If you're not good enough to get into that squad, then see you later. It's as simple as that. And for me, he wasn't good enough. Whose place is he going to take in that team? Mm-hmm. I don't see him any better than Maida. I don't see him any better than Jamesy Forrest. I don't see him any better than even Lewis Palmer. So, yeah, for his comments to be like that, yeah, mate, away you go. Like you said, he's got a list of clubs there that he's played with. And
that's the thing. He tends to, if you look at his career sort of trajectory and his backstory, he tends to maybe stay at a club for about a year and a half. Yeah. And he's got hundreds of clubs. He's a very young journeyman. Exactly. That's that's on hit the nail on the head there. So Haksabanovic goes. I don't think anybody is losing any sleep about that. 100%. Another one that's come up, we've spoke about him a few times. Josh, obviously being more knowledgeable around the sort of youth and the loan system, is Rocco Vata. Let us know what you think there in the comments. Rocco Vata, for me, he's very much a polarising character. I think there was a time whereby you would have thought to yourself, give him a chance. But as we've said time again, you need to earn these chances. We talk about pathway. I agree we could improve that, but you cannot just... you just can't have a pathway meaning you are straight in. That's not how it works. It's not going to happen. And he was a guy that was maybe demanding more. He was expecting more, and we've essentially not given him it. But it looks as if he's on his way to Watford now. So because of his age, we'd be entitled to only a developmental fee. I believe it's about 240,000 thereabouts that we'd get for him. But the interesting thing, I think, is that supposedly his wage is going to be around about the 20 grand, maybe more a week mark. Now, let's face it, do you think he's worth that? Was he ever going to get that at Celtic? Particularly if he's not going to be anywhere around that squad.
Listen, if we're not going to pay that for Paulo Bernardo in the middle of the park, we're certainly not going to pay it for Rocco Vata, who hardly gets a game. Let's be honest. Vata's flown his dad's coat strings for a long time at that club. For me, he's come in, he's had a couple of rapid wee busts here and there, but he's never been anything special. So yeah, if we can get money for him and get him out the door, perfect. See you later, like you say, tata Vata.
No, exactly. No, I mean, I don't think he's one of these guys that we're really going to lose much sleep about. I think when you look at people are saying we keep on losing our good quality young guys, and I suppose Ben Doak, as we said before, he would be the exception to the rule, would he not? Where you actually could see that that's maybe one that you would look in the wholeness of time and say that's one that got away. I don't really think, as you've just said with Haksabanovic, I don't really think he shows much more than any of the other players that you've mentioned that are out there on that position and on the wing. So, no, do you know what? Again, we talk about clearing the decks. Is 240,000 to you, obviously, the developmental fee? Is that money for nothing, basically? Are you taking that as a win or just a bonus?
I'll pay James McCarthy for a couple of weeks.
Aye, hopefully we can get rid of him. But there's another two as well, as we says. Oh, that old story's not really picked itself up, has it? There's the talk that he was meant to be moving on up to 4 million. That's kind of went a wee bit quiet there. We'll be hoping that that's something that can get ramped up a wee bit. But another one as well that came out was Siegrist. Now, we spoke about him as well. Look, we'll get round the goalkeeping position. We know that's something that we need to be doing 100%. Siegrist came out and he was quoted, and it was quite a strange quote, was it not? But he was saying about, when I leave there, I will never return and I'll be glad to see the back here. What's going on there with that guy? Does he know he's on the way out? Is he just trying to speed up the process of getting out?
He's back at training, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So basically he's come out and said, come the end of the season, yeah, that's it, guys, I'll not be back. And as far as I'm aware, Brendan just said, you know what, you're still signed with this club and you will come back. It's as simple as that. So Celtic at this point are still his employer, so he's back training with Celtic. I like what Williams said there, sign CM Punk, get him in. Yeah, I'd have him as a keeper rather than Siegrist, let's be honest.
Well, I can be the CM Punky Celtic podcasting, if you will, so I'll take up that mantle, eh? But no, do you know what, the goalkeeping thing, that's something that we need to actually get ourselves sorted. But let's get into what we have seen, right? What have we seen? And we've not had a chance to really talk about it, because the two names that we expected, similarly we've seen last seasons before, where it was Carter Vickers. Remember Carter Vickers with Jota and Situ, and they were the first over the line, and that's exactly what we were expecting. Brilliant, can't wait for that. I think at this stage, at the tail end of the season, including a goalkeeper, because Joe Hart gave us weeks and weeks of notice, plenty of notice that that's what we were going to do. You were probably expected a goalkeeper. Expected being the word, but you expect me, you get two different things with Celtic, but also Idah and particularly Bernardo, where there was that option to buy. So we thought that we would have been able to get those over the line. If we look back at the Bernardo situation, negotiated a fee down. Originally there was a talk of 5 to 6 million. It was closer to about 3.5, which you and I both agreed, and I think everybody else has, that for that kind of value, 3.5 million. Yep, absolutely great. Better than the 6 million. You might not want to go to that. Maybe not seen enough. But the stumbling block appears to be wages. Now, the question was, how much does he want? How much are we willing to give? And what should we do regarding this? Now, we know we don't need to labour that point. We have a wealth of riches sitting. And forget everything else that's still to come. But it's just concerning and classic Celtic, is it not, that we find ourselves at this stage, first week of the pre-season, numerous weeks down the line since we finished up, with something, there should have been some sort of dialect between the clubs whilst they were still at the club, that we can't come to an agreement.
Yeah. I mean, what's it rumoured that he's on? I've seen so many different stories. We were only paying part of his wages at Celtic Park. Now, somebody there, I can see that the wages at Parkhead are shocking. I don't agree with that. I think these guys are paid well for what they do, and Celtic have got a wage structure in place. We're not like the other team across the other side of the city that throw money at people, and I've got guys sitting there on 50, 60 grand a week who are bench players, to say the least. We've got a good structure in place, and Callum, as always, is our highest paid player and earns 5% more than the highest paid player at Celtic. So I think the structure that Celtic have got is quite good that way. However, I do think sometimes we do tend to penny pinch a little bit. I don't think Paulo Bernardo is worth about 20,000 a week on our current wage bill. I think 15 tops for me. I'd said that previously. I don't know what he's asking for, what kind of money's getting thrown about there, but for me, I think he's a decent enough player. He is the Portuguese under-21s captain. I've seen that, yep. So for me, he is going to make you money in the future. I think he's a decent enough player, and it's better the devil sometimes. So for me, Celtic, get it done, get it over the line.
Well, see, regarding this comment that's come up there, and it is something that we've mentioned, under-21 Portugal captain, you don't get these kind of things thrown at you if there's nothing there, right? We know that. You also don't get put on the books at, where he's at in Benfica if there's nothing there. But he's came to Celtic. Yes, he has made some good contributions compared to who we'll get on to, Adam Idah, perhaps not as telling in his contributions, but he showed enough. Now, we had this discussion where we says we will find ourselves in unusual waters. Celtic have always got money to spend. We've always been in a good position. Whether we have done it or not and used it, well, largely we haven't, as we know. One or two, exceptions, to that, the likes of your Edwards and stuff, but largely we kind of just tread water with the signing policy. Now, what I find interesting here is if you sign him at £3.5 million, I don't work it out. I don't know the math or how much you could be expected to be on that. The word just being rumours, nothing firm. Supposedly he's on circa around about 20 grand at Benfica, which really surprised me, to be honest. Really, really surprised me. Now, I said this to you before, one of the last shows that we've done prior to coming back, but I asked the question about Idah, and I says, just because, not just Idah, Bernardo and everybody else, just because you have the money, it's easy for us to sit here. We all want the best for the club. We want the club to be progressive. We want to be spending. We want to increase the wage cap, so on and so forth. We want spending. But at the same time, as I quoted, Fergus McCann, don't spend £10 million on a £5 million player. And the same applies to wages. Now, I don't think for a second that Celtic couldn't offer Bernardo 20 grand a week. I think for me, that would be, from what I have seen, that would be for me, just at face value, I think that would be no more than that. I don't think he's any worth more than that.
Nah,
give or take, maybe say 21, 22. But I was very much of the opinion saying, you maybe I give him that 20 grand. You see how he goes, and then like we've done with all these other players, you offer him you bump him up after 6 months or a year, or you sign him on the proviso of you're on 20 grand to begin with, but if you make X amount of appearances, yada yada, you will instantly go up to tier 2. It'll be 25 grand, 26 grand, whatever it is. And that for me is incentive based, and that's also beneficial not just to the club but also to the player, because they need to perform to their best of their abilities. If they want that bounty, they're not just giving it, they need to earn it. And I think that's something that Celtic should be doing. Now, we've said 40 grand a week in the comment I brought up, and that's the reason I brought that up. Yes, it's nothing in today's market, but then the question is, you've got to ask yourself, is Bernardo worth 40 grand? And of course, with that comes, I'm not against increasing the wage cap. I think it's something that we should be doing. But if you bring in Bernardo at 40 grand, there's going to be guys who are perhaps nowhere near that, who have made far more telling contributions. You've got to look at guys like, just off the top of my head, a Kyogo, a Hatate, a Carter Vickers. Before you know it, you've got 3, 4, 5, 6 guys that are all suddenly up to 40 grand. So it's can't just go exponentially growth. We do have the money to do it, but within reason, there has to be some form of structuring. I've asked the question, what do you think, again, playing fantasy football manager here, what do you value him at? Where do you think the price point, the value, the wage that Celtic should realistically be bringing in a guy like this to get that deal over the line?
Realistically, for me, I've said it before, I'm 15. I reckon that's...
Oh, that's harsh, eh?
It's enough for him. He's a good enough player, but for me, he wasn't a starter for us. And I don't want people sitting on my bench earning upwards of 15 grand a week.
But if we're not got to push back in that, if we're wanting to be progressive, if we're wanting to push forward, you're going to have to start paying these kind of wages. Now, I don't mean to hark back to the days gone by, but as we've time and time pointed out, if we look at the sort of Martin O'Neill era, we were buying guys for 5-6 million on the reg, right? And you've got guys like Sutton, Hartson, Thompson, Petrov. Mate, they're all sitting on that. They're all sitting on 35 or plus. Now, you can argue, by inflation and as time goes on, these guys are a higher quality, so they would expect that. But the point stands. If you look to our bench, even the guys that like your Ulrich Lawsons and stuff like that were on the bench there that weren't necessarily starters, they would have still been on a heavy chunk of change. These guys would have been on 20 minimum. So why can't we do that now to get guys like him in the door?
Yeah, I get it. I can see it. But again, I don't know, maybe I'm more like Peter Lawwell than I think. Penny pinching here. For me, I just don't want to start, like you said, throwing money at players that are definitely, for me, going to be sitting on the bench. He's not going to be a starter for us next season. If Hatate's fit, McGregor's fit, and we've still got Matt O'Reilly, then where is he? Where does he fit in there? Matt O'Reilly's back in training, looks delighted to be there. I don't know. I don't know what we do. To be honest, I would like to see him back at the club, but I don't want to start throwing massive amounts of cash at players who, again, like I say, are going to be on the bench.
No, I think, as he says, look, he's a guy that I would expect to get that deal over the line. It's just concerning to me, as we say, is that, yes, I'm maybe sort of doubling down on this point. We do have a lot of money, and on one hand, I'm saying it doesn't mean you throw it about like confetti, but at the same point, this is a guy that we would have known what the expectations were getting into that. And it just seems a bit short-sighted to be haggling over at something. I hear what you're saying about the 15 grand. Previously, I'd said that, but when we put it into context of world football, and particularly when we look at what he has said to be on at Benfica, you need to be at least minimum matching that. You need to be matching that. So I think there's no reason why the 20 grand is the starting point.
You're talking about that. It's the same thing with Idah. We were expected the price for Idah is going to be 6 million, yet we've went in with an offer at 4.5. It's classic Celtic tactics. If you want to play for this club, then you're going to have to take some sort of pay cut here. Or I don't know. I don't know what we do.
Well, as we said, we'll not labour that one too much. Hopefully we see something a wee bit positive in it. I think the way we've got to look at it as well is, though, if we offset the wage increase or perceived increase, we've saved about £2.5 million in the fee.
Yeah, exactly. Give them that.
So there should be no reason by maybe splitting that and meeting in the middle. I'm not good at the quick maths, but let's look at what if you split that over a 4-year contract, £2.5 million. How much would that, equate to per week? You can slice that maybe in half or a third of that and chuck that on top of what you're going to offer them. So for me, I think they should be looking at least minimum 20k, and then, as I say, his incentive base maybe bouncing up to 25 or whatever it may well be, depending on incentives. It'll work for Celtic in terms of they're going to get somebody that's going to have to earn their wage, going to have to work for it as well, but it also gives that player the wee bit of reassurance. If they've got that much self-belief in it, they should be sitting there and thinking, right, that's no worries for me, because there's no danger that I'm not going to hit those targets. So that's what I'd like to do with that, and we'll see how that one pans on, because we undoubtedly do need to get proper quality reinforcements in. And he was a guy, as we said, we're looking at Europe, he played every game in Europe.
Yeah.
There was obviously something suited the style that Rodgers really likes. But another guy who Rodgers really likes, and he made no doubt about it, was Adam Idah. Again, a bit of a strange one here. Now, he was brought in. It was a bit of a desperation situation, was it not? As we well know, it was one of these ones that was penned by the hand solely by the manager himself. He was the one that was putting the link. He was the one that made it happen. He got it over the line. We got him in with no obligation to buy, no option to buy. It was pretty much, you're getting him in a loan and you're going to have to negotiate the tail end of it, which admittedly wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
Again, are you surprised or not that it's taken to basically yesterday for us to get to the point where we've actually made a solid approach? But it's been confirmed that Celtic have done what we've expected them all to do. Go to Norwich and say, here you go. This is what our opening gambit is. And the chat originally was that it came out at 3.5 million, which obviously was suitably laughed out the room. But earlier this afternoon, it was again reported that the secondary bid had been knocked back, and this time it was between 4 and 5 million, said to be about 4.5 million, and that was rejected. Now, bear in mind, Adam Idah came up, scored some vital goals single-handedly, won the Scottish Cup for us, secured the double. He's been playing for Ireland. He's been scoring for Ireland. He's had a good return on his performances for us, which is obviously going to make it a wee bit problematic. But also, new manager coming in and 4 years on his contract. Now, what's your thoughts on that? Again, is this just Celtic being Celtic, trying to chip away slowly, just a lad, we here with extra 500 grand on here? What should we be doing here, Paddy? How should we get into this one?
Norwich showed interest in Mikey Johnson, I believe, didn't they?
Unconfirmed, it was circulating that perhaps he could be looked upon as being a make weight, but not confirmed.
Well, for me, that would be an ideal approach. I'd possibly say, right, have Mikey Johnson and 4 million. I don't know what Mikey is, what kind of price Celtic are going to be asking for him. I think we need to bring Idah in the door. I think he offers something incredibly different to Kyogo. Like you said, he's a kind of hybrid striker. He offers a lot more. I just think that Norwich, they'll have a price set. They should just turn around to Celtic and go, do you know what? 6 million is the price. If you want him, you come and get him. When Portugal there again, like I said, I was talking to quite a lot of the Irish Celtic fans out there, and they're loving it. They're loving the big man playing for us, and they're saying he's come into Ireland's few friendlies there, and he's looking sharp. He's looking more like the Idah that they remember of the past. So that's good to hear, and I think he's a cracking advocate for the club as well. He gets it. He knows what it means to play for Celtic. He's a Celtic fan, admittedly, as well. So you need to kind of throw the money at this one, I think. I would go as high as 8, 9 for Adam, just to get him in the door. I really would. I think he's a to play back on what we were discussing earlier, that's quite surprising to me. Now, obviously, the original talk was they valued him about 6 million, and then, as always, because of performances, and let's be honest, knowing the desperation that Celtic find themselves or will find themselves with one striker recognised in Kyogo, that obviously can play in to the owner of the player, if you will. Do they know that you need something? So they're going to throw a wee bit more your way and say, no, you need him more than we do. We're happy to keep him around. So that's given them a wee bit of an edge in the bargaining and the sort of negotiations here. A lot of people are sort of saying around about 6 million. Is Colin is here. Red Scotland saying obviously he's questions around Kyogo. Again, that's another discussion for another day. He doesn't see too much in terms of this levelling up for the Champions League. Now, with Idah, I've said time and time again, the word you used as I described was, see him very much as being this sort of hybrid type player. Not saying he is, but the quality is maybe of a Dembele when he first came in, where he's got explosive power, he's got a bit of touch, he's got more to him, he's got that sort of mobility, a more smaller, nimbler guy, but also the power
and the presence. You're sort of larger type strikers, and probably would fit perfect. In terms to say that he wouldn't necessarily level us up into the Champions League, well, that's a complete and utter unknown quantity, is it not? I think it's unfair to say that about anybody that's not had a chance to do it. Yeah, he looked raw. Yeah, for every great thing that he did, he had one or two things that, maybe his touch here or his decision making wasn't great. But that's very much to do with it was a guy that was pretty much coming on as an impact sub. You've got to imagine that if Brendan Rodgers wants to sign this guy, that he's probably going to push Kyogo out the starting lineup, is he not?
Yeah, of course he is. Like you said, he was kind of hit and miss. Was it the Dundee game? I think we done the post-match analogy after that, and I was calling him for everything, saying that there's no point bringing him in. He's not good enough, things like that. And then he went out the next week against Kilmarnock and had an absolute worldie. And I totally changed my mind on him. Seeing that, it was pretty special in that game, and I think he pushed on from there, and we've seen a different type of player. He likes to get involved in the build-up play and stuff as well, and he's not just standing up top. Sometimes you watch Kyogo and he can just be a bit of a passenger sometimes, until you get the ball to him and get him involved. But Adam seemed to come and look for the ball, and it gave us an extra option. So I was always quite happy to have that there. Like we said, coming into Europe, coming into kind of bigger games, I think you're going to need a bigger striker in there that's going to cause different problems, where you can do the chaos ball if you need to bring the ball over the top. Somebody that's going to bring your playmakers into play.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, that's the thing. I think what's interesting is, and that's another thing, when you're looking at wanting to sign Idah, money, no matter what, this season is always going to be always going to be a topic, isn't it? And how much we are willing to come across with it at the front end. I always think that if you've got an idea where you want to be at, knowing the way Celtic think, add at least $1.5 million on it. Right? Let's just stop farting about here. The fact of the matter is Celtic look to be selling a guy in O, right, for 3.5 up to 4 million. Yeah, we're coming in for a guy who we clearly want, and we're going, we give 4 million for him. How's 4 million sound? How about no? Just go in with a 5.5. Just if you want to act like a big team, start doing it now. UFC is up to 9. Up for
me, Adam Idah is twice the player that O is. So if O's going for 4.5 million, then he does 9 million for me. As simple as that. He's twice the player that O is, and he's proven that with his goal scoring and what he's done for the club.
Well, this is the thing. I think for me, the sweet spot on somebody like Idah would be 6 million. So a few folk are saying, would they level us up? Remains to be seen. But undoubtedly, you've got to look at it this way. Now, I've never been one of these trust the process type of guys, blind faith and all that. But if the manager is a player that he 100% wants, that he sees something in, as we've said time and time before, you've got to give Brendan Rodgers the tools that he wants. You've got to give him the players he wants. Now, in the fullness of time, if it backfired, then you can go see that's why you didn't get trusted. Right? We don't want it to be that case, but you have to have faith in the manager to that extent. And if he thinks he's worth 6 million, then you go and buy him. Similarly to when he signed Edward for 9 million, who was, he only played a handful of games. He had far less an impact in that side than Idah did the season gone by there. Yet he still was adamant, no, we are buying this guy, 9 million, and we saw how it went. So you've got to have a wee bit of faith in the manager, and you've got to give him the tools that he wants. And if he does that, guy, you've got to do it. But the interesting thing as well, apart from the 4 years, apart from the finances, they've got a new manager, and it's Johan Thorup, and he was actually quoted as saying that he was excited to work with Adam Idah. Is that just a ploy, perhaps, with a club who are willing to sell, to make it look as if, no, we really want this guy, to fire up the price negotiation?
It could be. If you were a new manager coming into a new club, would you not want to see all your players pre-season, get everybody in, have a wee look about and go, well, do you know what, that guy looks like he might fit into my plans? Different managers have different approaches. What worked for Norwich last year might not work for them this year. So I think that's the right approach for the manager. I think it's kind of what I would have been doing if I was taking over a new club as well. If Celtic, like you say, if Celtic want him, go out, bite the hand off. Negotiations are started, so it's progress at least. I think the Celtic fan in me just wants to wake up tomorrow and see the team line up against Ayr United and have Idah starting up front. That would just be the...
You better strap yourself in, mate, because you're in for a cracking lineup tomorrow. You're getting the Baniac and all sorts happening there.
The Baniac, Mikey Johnson. Oh,
exactly.
I can't
wait till Mikey Johnson will scores 4 goals and everybody will get dead excited about who's the future.
I know. There we go.
But as we say, we shall move on for Adam Idah. Now, just to touch on what John said there, he's been up on the screen with that. Would we cite, of course we need another striker, because let's face it, O is all but pretty much near enough out the road and out the way. So 100%, we need another striker. The name that keeps on flipping about, we've said it time and time again, is Miovski. Is it lazy? Perhaps. Again, for me, what I would say about that, there's been nothing official there. But if I was going to be going out and spending, say, 11 million and 2 strikers, I wouldn't have any issue with being Idah and Miovski if that was, what the manager wanted, or if that's what the sort of flavour the fans would like. One thing I would touch on by saying about Miovski and saying it's lazy is this: he's on your doorstep, it's lazy scouting, it's this and that. The question you've got to ask yourself is he good? Has he been effective? Has he been scored goals? Has he showed that he's got something? Then whether you like it or not, whether you think our league is the benchmark or not, the answer's yes.
The guy's done it in Europe.
Right? And yes, he did have good performances, albeit in the conference, whatever, it doesn't matter. When he was asked the question, he produced the goods. And he's very much been a guy that I think could develop at a good rate at Celtic very, very comfortably. And as we say, the foundations of Celtic for years had always been set upon some foreign imports, players for different sort of regions, international players, interspersed with the best of the rest, if you want to use that term, from the domestic league. We've had great success over the years from it. And I understand this idea of levelling up for Europe and all that. Right, again, I hark back to maybe, your Strachan era, even Lennon, things like that. Yes, we didn't set the header alight. We weren't getting into the last 16 and all that kind of, last 16, last 8, all that kind of, certainly not, right? But we were given a good account of ourselves, a very good account of ourselves, with a mixture of these players, including some of, as I said, the best of the rest for elsewhere. So I absolutely wouldn't have any problem with that one matter at all. That's that. So hopefully this is something that we can go over the lines and say, we've got a game against Ayr tomorrow. It's a nothing game, let's be honest. It's a nothing game. It would have been nice to have some fresh faces in there. Then we're going to be embarking on a tour in America. We're going to be playing some games over there. I think with the countdown on to the new season, realistically though, Paddy, we need to be getting a guy in or guys in within the next week to 10 days, do we not? You don't want it, and I've seen some of the comments where folk are saying you want to swim about in better player markets. I'm sorry, I'm not prescribing to this. Wait until the big teams declare their declare their squads, and you can get the offcasts, the dregs, the ones that are still quality players but are out of favour. We can't be looking at that all the time.
No.
You've got to just, if you like something, you like the look of something, you've just got to go and ask the question. What's the worst that could happen? The answer's no.
Exactly. Shy boys don't get sweeties. I've always said that. I watched an interview the other day with Alistair Johnson, and it was saying about when he come in. It was saying how he was signed during the World Cup, and when he came to Celtic, he didn't actually get a chance to really train a lot with the team before he was flung in at his first game, which was against Rangers. I think it was at Ibrox, wasn't it? Straight into a cauldron, and he had a cracking game. And he was talking about the signings and stuff, and he come out and he said, he would like to see guys come in the door and get a chance to train with them so that their abilities as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really, really cool. It was nice to see a footballer's perspective of it. The striker thing, I know you're saying Miovski. I think if we go out and we buy Idah, then I think we'll get another striker on loan It seems to be the thing that we do. We'll have two strikers on the books and have a loanee in. Potentially someone from the Championship, lower Premier League clubs, somebody like that. Possibly an Edward. Again, we've seen the links. I don't know kind of where we're going to be looking with things like that. But business-wise, I'd love to just see us get a few names in the door, but I don't want us to buy somebody just for the sake of buying somebody.
No,
obviously, the people at Celtic aren't mugs. They know what they're doing. They'll have people out there pushing to get Idah on the books. There'll be people negotiating with Bernardo probably as we speak. I just like it to be done a bit quicker. As a Celtic fan, you know that as well. You're kind of pushing, right? You're looking across the other side of the city and you're seeing bits of movement here and there. Again, we don't know what kind of quality that is that they're bringing in, but they're bringing in.
Well, you know, you can always, to jump in on that, you can always go down the sort of idea and the route of, we're looking at better quality, we're looking at a higher price bracket, these things are harder to do, right? As we've said time and time ago, again, if you've got the money, which we do have, you've got to at least start asking the question. You've got to put down the marker. You've got to show the intent. And then if it's something needs revisited or improved upon, you've got to start asking the question early. And I think that's the frustration. Now, in years gone by, Celtic were quite good at holding their cards close to their chest. Not really too much happening before, you know, there's a signing. I'd like to think, and I like to think as the phrase, that that's what's happening, rather than it being complete inactivity. In terms of across the city, as you say, yes, they are bringing in players. Again, always caveat that. We don't know who they are. We don't know anything about them. Let's not pretend. Let's not go, they're all going to be crap, because we know nothing about them.
Yeah.
But they are getting guys in that are free. They're getting guys in that are cheap. But irrelevant of how much they cost, the fact is their manager and or their scouting have identified these folk and they went and have moved on it. Now, you can always say, as I said, that the reason they're able to move on quick is because of the low value. But it's irrelevant. You've got to take it at face value. They seem to be getting their business done, whereas we're kind of, you know, taking our time as always. Yeah. But hopefully something does start to come around. So there has been a couple of other things that we've been linked with. And one that I want to see, we've spoke about the sort of centre backing. Scales was a surprise package. We've often said, got to give him his flowers for what he did last season. But long term, particularly if we want to talk about levelling up and all that, Europe, he's an option. He shouldn't be the solution in the first choice. Narotsky, he remains to be seen. There's been no mention of him leaving. We maybe see something out of him pre-season, hopefully. Lagerbielka's likely to go on. Maybe still interested in Welsh. So there's a couple of things that are up in the air, but we know that we need a right good quality defender. So Dara O'Shea is the name that's come out. Burnley defender, 25, Republic of Ireland internationalist, 26 international caps, 217 senior appearances for his clubs. Was signed a season ago by Burnley for $7 million. They get relegated, as we well know. And supposedly being the word, that Celtic have identified him, Rodgers identified him, and this is a guy that we are interested in. £7 million a year ago, many years on his contract, now in the Championship. Does that sound like pie in the sky, Paddy, or is this one that we need to get serious about? And if we look at, we spent about, $5 million on Narotsky, we spent $6 million on Carter Vickers. They're going to want at least their $7 million back of the nut.
Of course they are. For me, now, it just seems like if you wear a Republic of Ireland jersey or you're on a free transfer, then you're linked to a Celtic. It's as simple as that. I'd like to see the young lad come back up. I think he's decent enough if he's been $7 million and he's played in the Premier League and whatever else. I've not watched a lot of him, I must say. But yeah, if it's going to strengthen up that left centre back position that we are struggling with, then by all means, if that's what they've identified, then I'll trust the management on that. The boy Danielic there, I had seen that. Alan's mentioned there. I had seen his link with him.
Yep. I mean, what's interesting on that one is I don't believe that there's been any actual movement. He was on loan.
Yeah.
And I believe it was Red Bull. And they've not actually pulled the trigger. I believe that is now expired. It was supposed to be the end of last month that they had to
The
make
right
their
to buy.
intentions known.
Yeah.
So that one's really up in the air. Maybe favourable the fact that not much outing at the Euros, because as we know, if you play and you set, the place on fire and you're putting in great performances, then that increases all that, doesn't it? So he's an unknown quantity still. Unknown. Nothing at all went quiet there. That was maybe perhaps a rumour, but that's another one that we could look at. I would certainly say out the two, that one to me would seem a wee bit more possible. Listen, everything's possible when it comes to the money. We do have the money to do it. But if you ask me, Dara Shea, that was bought for $7 million by Burnley, who are just relegated down to Championship, somebody like that, or Danilovic, I'd say the latter is more likely than a guy who's been shelled out for $7 million. Would you know?
Yeah, definitely. Bring in more proven. If he's been at Leipzig playing decent level of football, then...
Well, it was Salzburg, sorry. It's easy to get mixed up with all these Red Bull teams, but
he's been playing at a decent level. So bringing in somebody like that, it would be decent enough to see. See Keith there as well saying phone Jamie Vardy. He's not my first choice that I would be bringing in for Leicester. There's a few other positions that they've got that I would like to steal their players.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about Leicester then, because one that came out, and again, look, red top, the rags as folk will call it, and it came out, it was another one the other day, the Daily Record of all folk, but I know sometimes there's a lot of crap out there, there's a lot of clickbait, but it was quite a sizable story, and there's got to be some level of, by the way, this is what I've heard, for somebody to print something, let's be honest, let's be real here, and there's nothing that's came out that's rubbished it. And the talk was, obviously, as we know, another previous Leicester was Amartey, who's still out there. I'd still one that I would like to approach if I thought that was happening. But it's Wilfred Ndidi. So, defensive midfielder's been let go by Leicester. 27 years of age, 356 career appearances, 24 goals. He's a defensive midfielder, very powerful, hard in the tackle, puts himself about. Pretty much exactly what we've been crying out for years. I suppose the term you could use is a midfield destroyer, a monster. And he's one that apparently, these are all just rumours, but we're just talking about what's out there, has been offered by an agent to Celtic. Now, he's 27, so he's in his absolute pomp. He's getting his prime years. 50 international caps for Nigeria. He was rated about 16 million. And if you wind the clock back when he was at Leicester and they were flying, there was links to teams like Man United and the likes and stuff like that. As we say, so Punch is saying fake news, may well be, but as we say, these are things that are out there, and it's a discussion, it's a general chit-chat about what the rumours, the whispers are, and it's one that's came up. There's no doubt for me that a guy his age, his profile, he would probably be able to go to the likes of Saudi Arabia or elsewhere and have a plethora of teams that are after him.
Yeah.
But we talk about wages, we've spoke about the Bernardo situation, we've spoke about the Idah situation, we've spoke about the requirement to bring up the wage cap. We need to start doing it if we want to attract these guys that are of a higher quality. I don't know what our wage cap currently is. I'm led to believe it's maybe about 40 grand for somebody like Callum McGregor.
I think they upped that when we signed Edward, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be quoted.
If anybody actually knows inside the comments what our wage cap is, then fire off and let us know. I'm led to believe it might be 40, 45 tops. But I think these guys, you've really got to be starting to look and making the 40 minimum. Or I say minimum, your maximum of 40. You've got to maybe make that more a regular occurrence, if you not, for some certain guys. And I think
if you're getting this guy on a free transfer as well, then offer him a signing fee.
That's what I said before as well. Offset it.
Do you know what I mean? Offset that against the wage. You say that $2 million signing fee, pal, and 30 grand a week for 2 years, right? No problem. I think that would be a good way of approaching this. Would I like him in the door? Yes, indeed. I really would. I think he's a cracking player. Like you said, solid, a kind of Wanyama type player, somebody that's going to win you the ball in there. Decent pass record, decent holding up the ball, good at breaking up the play. He's the kind of player I'll be looking at to get in there.
Yeah.
We need something like that for in Europe, because in Europe sometimes we were caught out because we had too many attacking minded players, and when we come against the bigger clubs like your Real Madrid and whatever else, we were picked apart because of that. We spoke as well about Daniel Amartey. I would love to see him in the door because he gives you so much an option. We spoke about it before. He was a kind of beat-on type player where he can play pretty much any position that you put him in. I think he's done that throughout his career as well, but it's predominantly known for being a centre-back. So for me, he would be a cracking one to bring in.
You know, the thing is, see, you come back to this talking about spending money, and you know, it's going to be a big topic, right? We've spoke time and time again, and we'll get on to some of them because we want to talk about the goalkeeping situation as well, right?
Yeah.
See the amount of talent that's out there, that's available on a free, right?
Yeah.
It's frightening. Now, I'm just going to quick fire throw out names because we'll get to it, right? Goalkeepers, right? Now, listen, to make it clear, I would rather Celtic go out and go and spend money, right? Buy guys 5-6 million, do it more, right? Of course I do, right? But also, I'm thinking a Celtic as being, no, folk don't like it this way, the business side of things, right? You can still do good business without going mental with the cash, and you can use it in other positions and use it for ours. So if I was to quick fire names at you that you could get in right now, yes or no, it's just quite simple. Goalkeepers, we've seen Dubravka, we've seen him at the Euros, by all accounts, pretty good, right? Pretty decent considering what he was up against. Cost you nothing, wages, right? McKenna, cost you nothing, wages, right? Amartey, cost you nothing, wages. Ndidi, cost you nothing, wages.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm doing here?
No brainers, isn't
And then
it?
even I know it's never go back to next that. Armstrong, cost you nothing, wages.
Yeah.
I've just named off about 5 players there that you could drop into your team, costing you nothing. Give them a decent signing on fee, give them some of that, give them that 40 grand or whatever, depending on who they are and where they are in their career stage. Yeah. You've essentially got a spine of a team, goalie, defender, midfielder, a spine of a team that is, whether you rate them or not, is Premier League top quality.
Yeah.
For wages. Right.
Exactly.
So yes, I am all for and want us to be going out and spending and investing and showing a bit of ambition. But I am not ignorant to the fact that some of these people that are out there are great options, and just because they've been released doesn't mean they're crap.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Totally agree with you, mate. 100%. And like that, you've only scratched the surface of what's out there. Watching the Euros, I believe Memphis Depay is in the same boat as well, isn't he? Doesn't have a club at the minute. I think he's out of contract. Somebody his calibre to be in that position is absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, he's maybe a bridge too far. Let's be real. But
I know. But do you know what? That's what I'm saying. You look at these kind of competitions, and you're looking at some of the squads. You even look at the Slovakia squad that played against England. Slovakia were outstanding for 90 minutes, and half of their players are probably playing for teams that you've never even really heard of. You've never really thought, oh, do you know what? We should approach them for that type of player, and they were solid. They done well. Again. Other smaller teams in that. Somebody's well there that said about the Canada goalkeeper. I've not watched much of the.
They've been quite impressive actually in the Copa America. Yes, and even look at that Romania side as well.
They've been brilliant. Yeah.
Yep. There is some really good, and it would be nice, would it not? You know, we've and again, I'm winding the clock way back, but remember we were getting guys like Valharn and Reaper coming in off the back of European competitions. Wow, look at that. I like a bit of that, wouldn't it? It'd be nice because you're mentioning a lot of these guys, and really, if you look at normally when you watch a tournament, and they always profile a breakthrough player, and they focus in on, you know, Paddy Maguire, the young Paddy Maguire that's playing for whatever country, and he's unbelievable. There's been none of that. There's been so many highly impressive players in these sort of random teams that there's no song and dance made about them. That's not to say folk aren't looking at them, but you've not had the same. Do you remember, like when we were looking at Pavlyuchenko, for example, at Russia, and it was as soon as he started scoring, it goes, "Oh, this guy's amazing," and you knew you were never getting near him There's been none of that. And there's been a lot of quality players out there that you'd like to hope that our international and our scouting system is going to start, looking forward a wee bit more and casting the net further and looking at these guys rather than maybe what's tucked away in the filing cabinet for a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, no, 100%. These are always excellent shop windows, and that's why obviously we were kind of a bit gutted that Matt O'Reilly wasn't included in the Denmark squad, because I felt like that would have increased his value as a player. But listen, the fact that Matt's still at the club, for me, is a signing in itself. If we can keep him going into next season, then that would be unbelievable. But again, it's early doors, and I think he will be heading out.
Yeah. So finally, just to sort of wrap up, is something, again, nothing solid here. And this is the one that's going to frustrate folk. Yeah, we're frustrated that Bernardo should have been dealt with. Yes, we're frustrated at Idah, because these are two guys that we were expecting. The biggest frustration is undoubtedly the goalkeeping position. Now, obviously, we've seen the names that were linked. We saw that most of them were rubbished. The Dubravka one, it raised its head again. We don't need to go into that. We've seen the profile of him. We've seen that he's been playing. I thought he was all right. And as I say again, age, you take age at face value on a player-by-player basis, because he's been playing top level, international, played almost more than half a season for Newcastle last season. He looks fit and firing. And I think 2 years out of him on wages. Yes, we will also need to get in another goalkeeper, and I hope we spend appropriately on it, but I am not against it. One name that's come up now, he hasn't been linked, but I just want to bring him into the fold, because again, we wind the clock back. He was somebody who was mentioned that he might have came to Celtic at the time, because at that time he was at St Mirren, and that was Valkav Hadley. Now, he obviously went for St Mirren. He went down to Ipswich, and look, he done very, very well for himself, but he surprisingly has turned down a new contract with him, a freshly promoted Ipswich, and he's free. You can get him for free. 33 years of age. He's played, obviously, St Mirren, Slovan Liberec, but mainly he's been down at Ipswich. He played every single game in their successful promotion push last year, and he's turned down a contract getting into the Premier League. Now, I believe they brought in Ruddy, so he might have been pecking down to number 2. Yeah. But if I was just to throw out a name of another guy that's an example that's out there, that's a good quality goalkeeper that you can pick up for wages, is that one that you would look at and say, do you know what? That's better than what we've got here now. That's better than Siegrist. That's better than Bain.
Let's be honest, what we've got now is absolutely hee-haw. We've got Siegrist and Bain, who couldn't, for me, get into the B team squad. This young lad, part of a promotion winning team, proven winner. That's a cracking championship down there as well, and to be in a league winning side, a promotion winning side down there, isn't to be sniffed at. So a big cracking option to bring in. And like you say, if you get him on a free, then it's a no-brainer. These kind of guys should be coming in the door and offer them £1 million, £2 million signing on fee, and then negotiate the wages after that.
Mm-hmm. I think the big concern is always for folk when we look at the goalkeeping situation is, particularly look at the Dubravka, you look at the age and folk think that he's further down the line. Out of the two, he's played a higher level. He's probably a higher standard, the keeper. Yes. He is a wee bit older. I think you could get 2 years out of him, but there'd probably be no reason why that, again, like, I don't want people to be sitting watching this and thinking, oh, Steve doesn't want to spend money, but I'm just trying, as I say, I'm trying to look at it and think, right, so we maybe need about 8 players in the door, right? Yeah. And yep, we could go out and spend 5 million on each 8 players at 5 million plus. We could do that, but let's be honest, we're not going to do it. So that's where we need to box clever, and that's why, as I say, I've named all those guys that you can get on the free. You're saving at the front end by not having to pay out that signing on fee, that huge or large fee. So you can really be smart and box clever, and you can get guys in who are wages, they're running bills, and that frees up the money for you to really invest where you 100% know that money would have to be spent. That is your striker that you really need to spend on. It's your good quality winger. it's your second defender that you want to get in, that you're willing to pay money on. So I think that these are actually not bad options. And I would say, you know what? See if you says to me, you'll go and get Dubravka and you'll go and get Hadley. Dubravka will be your first choice goalkeeper this season, and Hadley's going to be the natural successor. I would take that. I would take that. As much as I would like us to go out, and any of the goalkeepers that Celtic have been getting mentioned or linked with, Binder, the boy Jensen that we've touched on, neither of them for me show any great promise or real value for money versus these two guys who are costing you nothing.
Yeah, I see.
Based on performances and players, I think that one's that for me. That I really that's where I draw the line. That's a push too far. I think.
I'd like to see that one.
I think Casper's maybe that's a bridge too far in terms of the age and things like that. But you know what? We need to start getting things moving, and we need to start doing it sooner rather than later. As we say, the pre-season's well underway. There's a wee game tomorrow. Doesn't really mean too much, but hopefully before we're out to America or whilst we're there, we'll get somebody coming over to join us, and that's something else. But just to finalise, one guy who won't be joining us, Marco Tilio, he's away back to Melbourne again for another loan season. Paddy, I just want to ask you, what's the point?
I know. Why bring these guys across? I know he was supposed to have been a project, and he was supposed to have been someone that was going to be setting the world alight, along with Yang and O and everybody else that kind of come in with him. But get these guys off the wage bill, get them back out there. Do you know what? Apparently played incredible first couple of games that he played for them. Excellent. Mm-hmm. We spoke about it before. Celtic is a massive club in a small city, and it's a goldfish bowl. And if you can't play in that goldfish bowl, then you deserve to be like Mikey Johnson and out the door.
Well, that's it. Well, we've went just over an hour, as we say. Nothing too concrete. It's all rumour and innuendo. It's all whispers there. But at least there has been some sort of chat. And it has been a wee bit positive to see that we're at least trying when it comes to either thing. I know that's settle for trying. Absolutely not. All I'm saying is it's good to see that we're actually trying to make moves, because it's been long overdue, and hopefully we'll start to get it in. We need to start adding a squad. I think getting Bernardo and Idah signed, that would be a nice starting point, but it is only a starting point. There's bigger fish to fry. We need the goalkeepers in. We also need to be getting in good quality defenders, and we've touched on some of the options that are there. Definitely that midfield needs bolstering. I definitely think as well we need attacking options on the wing. Time and time again, I am not mad on Palmer. Maybe he'll level up. I think we're light out there. I really do think that we're light out there. I also think the right-hand side isn't great either. There's a lot of work to be done. There's plenty of time. And there's also plenty of money. So before we go, there's just one thing as well that we should definitely address, and that is this, of course. The late great Tommy Burns, it's a passing there. And Rosemary will be joining Tommy, which, that's our best wishes. Celtic World Order goes out to all Tommy Burns, his extended family at this time. So
I said before, I was lucky enough to meet Tommy and Rosemary as well. She was there, and I was at Celtic Park with a good friend of mine, and Tommy kind of squeezed past me. So, sorry son, can I get by you there? And I was absolutely starstruck, and I believe my words were somewhat off, for fuck's sake, kind of something like that. What's going on here? And he sat down beside me, and then he says, "You better budge up a wee bit." I says, "How?" He says, "That's my wife's seat. She'll be down and out." So I've kind of moved up a wee touch, and she sat in beside me. And do you know what? They were lovely people, absolutely lovely people, very religious, very, very well spoken. They were just absolute gems in the world. And do you know what? They're together again, and they'll always be part of the Celtic family. So yeah,
absolutely.
Thoughts and prayers go out to them.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we are done for this time, as it would be. As we say, we'll try to get some more stuff out. Hopefully, there'll be a lot more for us to talk about. We've got a few wee irons in the fire that we're working on. We're wanting to do some pre-recording. We'll drip out some shows. I'll be away a week today. I'm off to New York. I had a bit of a nightmare with that. My flights get cancelled. I was scrambling about yesterday, but I managed to get that fixed. So there will be some shows there. We're trying to get some pre-record, trying to get some content out between now and then. Anything that breaks, as we say all the time, we will be here to make sure that we're covering it. Thanks to every single one of you that have taken the time to join us, because it has been a while, but hopefully, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and you'll be more of these coming back. As we said before we go, if you like it, make sure you give it a wee thumbs up. If you haven't done it, subscribe. And as we said before, you can connect with us elsewhere on X at CWPod1888. We're also on Facebook at Celtic World Order Pod. As we say, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything as well. Again, thank you to our first ever member for 20 somewhere. And he also was very kind to donate a membership to someone else. So whoever that lucky person is, we thank you very much. So anyway, Paddy, it's been a pleasure, mate. We will be catching up soon. Hopefully there will be a wee bit more to look forward to and get our teeth into. We live in hope, don't we?
Definitely. As soon as it comes in, we'll be first on it and we'll pass it on to all yous.
When it happens, it happens. When the players come in, they come in. So anyway, until then, thanks again. And as always, hail, hail, and take care of yourselves. See you all later. Bye-bye.
Hail, hail.